Friends, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be. Good day. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch. Lots going on in the world of wrestling this week. Some good, some bad, some certainly ugly, and definitely some great topics of conversation for today. Of course, I am Spencer Love, and of course, great to see everyone on screen. Now, wherever you may be watching, whether it's Twitch, Facebook Live, YouTube, if we're being torrented somewhere, we're being beamed into some sort of like alien galaxy out there and you're tuned in for the first time, rad. Thanks for joining. We always want to encourage discussion, whether it's on screen or off. Absolutely, Kyle. Live long and prosper to yourself too, man. But we always want to encourage discussion in the comments as well. So if you've got topics, you've got questions, you've got comments, you've got concerns, hopefully a lot less of the latter than the former, feel free to throw them out there and feel free to say hello like Astrid has done on Twitch. Good to see you, friend. Thank you for tuning in. And Kyle, I already started with you, man. So how are you doing? How are you on this fine Sunday morning?
Well, you know, I had 2 wrestling shows this weekend, so I'm a little tuckered. But overall, I feel okay. And yeah, I'm just happy everything's back in the groove now. And we've been going steady here. And everything's been rocking and rolling for the last couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Absolutely, man.
The world kind of opened back up. And, you know, my injuries have healed up to the point where I'm not really that concerned about them anymore. And yeah, it's been fun. So I'm looking forward to more next weekend. Josh Alexander and Johnny Devine are going to be in the house. It's going to be some good stuff going on.
Man.
Yeah,
RCW is doing some great things. Every promotion going in Alberta right now has been doing some great things. Parrish, you recently got back into the ring yourself, so a little bit on that. And then just how are you doing, brother?
It's good. You know, everybody wants a piece. You know, I made some debuts last weekend. RCW was giving me the call yesterday. They just want to make sure that the Love Wrestling League champion is always prepared. No, I'm doing well. I'm like Goose who's feeling tuckered. I'm feeling Otis. Oh, yeah.
Frustrated, but well played. Alex, it's good to see you, friend. It's been a long time, obviously, since I saw you playing Jackbox last night.
Yeah.
How are you doing, man? Welcome to Sunday Brunch.
Thank you. I'm still shaking off the cobwebs even here at 1 p.m. my time. So, it's been an interesting morning so far, and I'm glad to join the Sunday Brunch group and talk some wrestling.
Absolutely. And last but certainly not least, Lawrence, good to see you, friend. How are things on the afternoon side of things for you?
Oh, I'm good. Little tuckered out a bit. Back still hurting, but happy to be here. And I'm still a little annoyed I lost a lot yesterday. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be carrying that for like the next week.
Well, fair enough, my friend. I can't say I blame you, but say la vie on that. And Jeremiah, good to see you, my friend. Get it, Goose. Yeah, again, RCW is doing some great things. They're in Calgary every Friday, every Saturday night. They are in Edmonton, Alberta. So if you've got the opportunity, we're going to plug them later, obviously. But make sure you get your tickets. As Goose mentioned, Josh Alexander and Johnny Devine in town, among the great talent they've got there each and every week. Now, lots of great stuff, like we mentioned, going on in the world of wrestling. Definitely some stuff, though, worth chatting about that was maybe a little bit more on the controversial, negative, frustrating, definitely disappointing end on my side. And Parrish, I know you guys did a great job sort of reacting to it yesterday, ironically enough, on Love Wrestling Reacts. But Bray Wyatt, the big news coming out of the week, which is just nuts. Like, that guy, a lot in the way we talked about Braun Strowman, but for me, like a much higher level, like, this guy's a former Universal Champion. He's a guy who moved a lot of merch. He's a guy that had been on big spots on SummerSlams and WrestleManias and at pretty well every card that you could think of. Right now, there were a lot of issues with a lot of the ways he was booked. Whether it's the Eater of Worlds, whether it's some of the stuff that happened with the Fiend. I don't think anyone would dispute that losing to Goldberg was frustrating, to say the least. But Bray Wyatt was an incredible talent, an incredible creative. I should say, not was, whether he's with WWE or not, he obviously is. So I figured, because we're going to chat about a few other favorite matches today and get some reactions on stuff with Roddy Piper, Parrish in the appropriate shirt, let's chat about Bray Wyatt. Lawrence, I asked you how you were doing last, so maybe a few thoughts on the release, a few favorite matches, moments, or anything in between.
Yeah, it is incredibly frustrating, but like has his entire run with WWE, because like it's all start stop. Like he every time would build up to being this monster, and then they'd cut his legs out from under him and he'd just start losing. Like the Goldberg loss didn't make any sense. He was like, as the Fiend, he was this unbeatable monster. Then all of a sudden, bang, it's over super quick. Like from a storyline perspective, it sort of takes away from the mystique of this character, which really worked. Like one of my favorite moments, you mentioned it too, was his debut at SummerSlam. With that re-debut as the Fiend was so special and so cool, because like that's one of the things that's just the pageantry around it. It's one of those things that both like adults and kids like, because it's got that cartoonish. He's got that cartoonishy character that they do, but it also works for adults too. But yeah, it's just like completely frustrating. He worked so hard to continually get different versions of this character over, and it just felt like WWE never gave him the full shot. Like he kept getting it over, kept making moving merch, and at the end of the day, it was just a little frustrating to see him go in the way it went up. It's like his choice. I'm happy for him. He needs to find like a place that he's healthy and get like start dealing with the stuff if that's what it is. But it's just a bummer all around.
I completely agree. And if you guys have your thoughts on Bray Wyatt, obviously feel free to throw them in the comments. We are always encouraging them. Jeremiah, that is certainly something I would agree with. Rebuild, destroy. That seems to be the pattern with Bray Wyatt. Yeah, and at least from an outside guy's perspective, it's not like I got any idea of the inner workings of the Federation, as the insiders call it. But it's not for a lack of effort, for lack of a better way to put it. You know, you hear all the stories about the want for creativity on every wrestler's end, but especially his end. And like the evidence that it was there is insane. Sean Ross Sapp tweeted it out yesterday, and I'm going to reference him a couple times because I watched his stream yesterday right after he was released, and he made, as always, a lot of great points. But he made the point yesterday that Bray Wyatt essentially had 4 characters that he created, tried to build up, and then again just sort of were pulled back upon for lack of a better way to put it. So, Alex, again, just in the interest of I went clockwise one way, so I'm going counter the other. Same question I posed to Lawrence earlier. What are some maybe favorite moments, your thoughts on the release overall, or anything along those lines?
As far as favorite moment goes, I actually am a really big fan of the John Cena, Bray Wyatt, Fiend WrestleMania match last year, the theatrical match that people want to call it.
Yeah, man.
It was a cool trip down memory lane and what if lane, seeing Cena in the NWO. But I think that could have came from the mind of Bray, and it was so good. As far as coming from the mind of Bray, he has a lot of good foresight to see where to go next. There was a promo that he did specifically for WWE exclusives, I believe, where he talked about a creature in the woods and the creature had yellow eyes, and it was almost as if he was foreshadowing the Fiend coming along, and that was great with him. Was he always had the foresight to think, okay, what can I do here that can be referenced down the line, and kind of teased. Like there was a couple of his promos that he was like, go back and listen to those. You might find out something about what's coming. As it was very excellent, and it's going to be exciting to see where he goes and what he does, because he's one of the great character and one of the great minds of the age we have.
I couldn't agree with you more. And of course, friends, I encourage it always. If you've got thoughts on any iteration of Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, Husky Harris, I've got time for that. I'm personally of the belief that Husky Harris, even as is, was a fairly underrated professional wrestler. So be that maybe only my opinion, but I'll defend her to the death. As I move on to the Canadian Goose, I also want to say hello to good friend Cody. Thanks for joining on the stream, friend. We'll get to you in a quick second, because not only do I want to ask your thoughts on Bray Wyatt, but I want you to say hello, introduce yourself, all that good stuff. But if I was going to introduce the Goose, I'm going to do right by the Goose, especially when he's saying that his injury's all healed up. I don't want him to flap his way over here and drop the wing drop, I suppose, on me. I tried to make a couple of Goose puns, but the second one wasn't as strong as the first. Either way, Goose, to you.
Bray Wyatt, I think, is awesome. I mean, I don't think I've seen him wrestle since like WrestleMania, so he's been like off TV for a while, and I am out of the loop on why he was released. I've heard maybe it had something to do with like a depression issue, like he was distraught about the death of Brody Lee. But like that's just something I heard in like a Simon Miller YouTube video or whatever. I have no idea. I probably shouldn't even speculate. But anyway, honestly, with a guy like Bray Wyatt, it's such a weird situation, because it's like if WWE had in like 2006 just decided to like fire the Undertaker, except right now, AEW is a thing, so it's almost like if it had happened in 1999 and they were just like, yeah, WCW, you guys want The Undertaker? I'm looking,
on a silver platter.
I'm sorry to say, but I'm excited for it, because I think that Bray Wyatt in AEW is going to be awesome. I think he's going there, and I know that there's a lot of people that are like, oh, they hire too many WWE fired guys, but hire Bray Wyatt. Do that. Yes, please. I don't care what the mark says. Hire Bray Wyatt and put him on your television.
I've never understood that mentality of like, this is where somebody used to work, so they therefore have to only work there, or they're a WWE guy or a Ring of Honor guy or whatever it might be. Like, people need to work. Let them go work where they feel is best for them, because most of the time it's a great decision, at least off the bat. I know there are some definite notable exceptions. Jeremiah, I do agree with you there. It is extremely disappointing, but he was very close with Huber. As much as I hate he's gone, I honestly just for Rotunda to feel better. Yeah, I can't speculate on his mental health. I really honestly don't want to on that end.
No.
From what at least Meltzer was saying, and I know take any journalist for what they're worth, but he was told, or at least the rumor out there is that Bray was told it was part of budget cuts. He was expecting to return to the ring in August, which is especially surprising. It feels like with any of these individuals, whether it's Bray, like there were a few individuals when you look at Billie Kay, who was on WrestleMania the week or 2 weeks prior to her release. There were a lot of individuals with just like odd timing behind this, you know?
Let's make a bunch of budget cuts when we're making more money than we've ever made ever.
That's the thing is like, even with the optics, their financials were last week. But either way, let's not worry about that. We advertised an introduction. Cody, it's nice to have you on here, friend. You're getting the big screen. You're going to introduce yourself. You're going to say hello. And then we're going to talk about Bray Wyatt. But big screen's yours, friend. Say hi.
Hopefully you guys can hear me fine. I couldn't get my headset to work, so I'm using the laptop there. But I'm Cody. I'm new to Love Wrestling. I'm a huge fan of most things WWE. Just kind of getting started in AEW, and then also fairly up to date with New Japan stuff as well. Came on, done some writing in the past, interested in kind of giving my opinions on wrestling and giving a little bit more of a positive outlook on the world of wrestling. Which is funny because in the comments, oftentimes I can get negative myself. But as far as the Bray Wyatt story goes, I was a latecomer to the news yesterday. You guys broke the news to me while I was watching the Reacts yesterday morning. But I popped myself up on a little bit of it since then. News I saw this morning, I guess he's tweeting out some teasers possibly to the Cult of Rotunda. So
Cult of Wyndham.
Or Cult of Wyndham, yes, that was it.
I also think, wasn't that like a clothing line or something along those lines that he had a couple of years ago? All seriousness, I think he had something along those lines. But either way, I've been wrong before. I'll be right.
I haven't seen it in a Walmart, so I can't really say.
Parrish, to move on to you because we haven't touched with you yet. I'll let you answer this one from Brian. Good to see you, friend, and thanks as always for tuning in. Do you think Bray could go with Bo Dallas to AEW and start something together? That would be cool.
I bet you Bo Dallas would like that.
I mean, who knows? I also just want to say, like, we speculated a lot yesterday, and we're still speculating today. Nobody knows yet, like, exactly the reason why. It's very uncertain that if it was WWE who let him go because of a budget cut, or whether or not it was an ass release. We don't know any of this stuff yet. Like, it's just shocking for fans of Bray Wyatt in the WWE bubble. I don't understand why WWE would want to let a Bray Wyatt go. Personally, I think he draws too much money for them, especially when we talked about his ridiculous like $6,000 Universal title, the masks. You know, if they ever wanted to make the lamps, the shirts, everything. I mean, I showed last night in my True Form, my Fiend hoodie. So it's just really shocking in so many ways. But I mean, when we touch back about just that depression stuff, and then we know that he was affected greatly mentally just with the passing of Luke Harper. We've seen it in the past, like, and I mentioned yesterday, whether it's Eddie Guerrero's passing, how that affected other professional wrestlers and how they needed to do this. We also have to remember Bray Wyatt, new wife, has another new child like on the way. He's a very family-oriented man. And I think that's lost in translation with all of this. And I think the fact that he lost one of his best friends who had a very young child in Brody Jr., and just like, we got to remember, like, these guys have lives. So it could just be very much he just said, you know what, I want to see my children grow up and I want to be there instead of on the road. So that very well could be a thing. I hope to, no matter what he does, he does what he wants. He does what he cares about. If he wants to do something with his brother, go for it, because I have a brother who's 7 years older than me. It's very hard to do stuff that I love to do on a professional level with him because of that gap. So all the power to him if that's something that he wants to do, because that would be a lot of fun. It's his life. He lives it the way he wants. So
yeah, don't disagree whatsoever on that part of it. Like I said, I can't even begin, nor do I want to speculate on anybody's mental health when it relates to a passing or anything, right? Like it's a shitty situation all around. There's really no other way to cut it better than that. I think older fans, if he chooses to wrestle, I would have to assume, or chooses to get back in, whether it's with AEW, I think older fans would tune in for the name Rotunda as well. I have no idea what like ownership or anything like that is like in professional wrestling. I really don't. So if you can, hell yeah. I got all the time for the rotundas, but really have no clue.
That's his real name.
Yeah, Wyndham Rotunda, I believe, is his real name. Hey, guys, time for brunch with the gang. Yes, it is. Good to see you. Ed, thank you for tuning in. It is appreciated. If you guys have thoughts on Bray Wyatt, you have thoughts on anything else in professional wrestling, feel free to let us know in the comments. Brian, I appreciate that, friend. Always great seeing you. Keep doing excellent work. Thank you, friend. And as long as we keep doing it, thank you for continuing to tune in, whether it's on Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, or again, whether we're being beamed into cyberspace somewhere. Thank you. It is always, always, always appreciated. Now, I got to top myself up on coffee here, so 20 minutes in is a good time to take a quick break. Coming up this week on Love Wrestling, I've got a chat coming with Shaz McKenzie, which was an absolute blast to get to do. We chatted, of course, right off the bat, if we're going to break some news and get the hot scoops, which you're going to hear me say again here in a second. Chatting about Nick Gage versus Chris Jericho, and we're going to talk about it when we come back here on Love Wrestling. So here's a nice little teaser. Top up your beverages, and we'll see you guys in about a minute and a half right here on Sunday Brunch. Before we get into you, obviously, we got to start with the quote-unquote breaking news, the hot scoops, but something that was, again, just good shit. What did you think of Nick Gage and Chris Jericho?
Oh,
right?
It was great. Like, one of my friends, Jude the Dude London, he called me as it was starting because he was like, I just need to see you watching it. Like, he's like, I don't even care about like he's just like, I just know, because we'd all watched on like a Discord the Matt Cardona Nick Gage match, and I was like yelling at everyone. I was like, you don't understand, Ricky Shane Page, he's gonna fuck him over. You don't understand.
Everything's insane. Everything everywhere is weird.
Yeah, it's like, you don't understand. Like, this is so many things are happening right now. So everyone was like wanted to see my reaction. It was just it's just so cool to see Nick Gage up on like the main eventing on national. Like, what? Like,
I know,
it's
right?
Insane.
It's still like jarring in the best possible ways, especially like, you know, you tune into TNT. I didn't expect to see them go as far as they did, to say the least.
No, 100. When they got the tubes out, I was like, oh, okay, like they're gonna use like one tube, and then we'll be, like, they'll just use it for the like, look, guys, you got your tubes. No, but they did the glass, they did the piece cutter, they did the tubes. They were like, whoo! I was like, yeah, it was insane. Like, props to Jericho as well. Like, right, freaking, like, the amount of bumps that man has taken at his age to then do that is just like, he doesn't need to do that. There's no reason. Like,
guy's proven himself 15 times over at this point.
Yeah, we know you can wrestle. It's okay. Like, we know you're hard. Like, it's fine. You don't need to prove anything to us. We don't. But like, for him to go out all that as well is just insane. Like,
right. Good morning. Let's talk death matches, because I absolutely love the main event of Wednesday night's Dynamite. Now, I will say right off the bat, I realize that death matches and hardcore professional wrestling is certainly not for everyone's taste, and we are happy to chat on either end of the spectrum there. But we're going to make sure we keep things respectful, because, again, I know that death matches, and rightfully so in some cases, can elicit a lot of emotion out of individuals. Personally, though, as a big old fan of deathmatch professional wrestling, I loved it. Big Nick Gage fan. Huge fan, again, of Chris Jericho throughout his career. And to get to see this, like I said when I was chatting with Shazza, was absolutely surreal, for lack of a better way to put it. So, Jeremiah, I completely hear you on that end. You had to look away. You've never had to look away. Hope it's the last time we see Nick Gage on television. I completely understand the emotion there, friend. I completely do, because it ain't for everybody. And even like I said with Shazza, like, you didn't really even expect to see that when you were tuning in at, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Time, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time to see a death match in a main event, right? So who haven't I? Well, you know what, Cody, we're going to start with you. We'll let you tackle off Wednesday night's main event, give some thoughts on what you thought on Nick Gage, Chris Jericho, anything in between on that, my friend.
I'm personally not actually a fan of the deathmatch scene. Just in general, I think it's a very, very kind of niche fandom that really, really enjoys that kind of hardcore deathmatch and hardcore violence and stuff like that. I was all for your typical, like your ECW kind of, little things, but I think where it really gets me is when you start bringing oddities like the pizza cutter, like the light bulbs, like things like that, and just the shattered glass flying everywhere and stuff like that. It's just, it's not for me.
Yeah.
To an extent, it was cool to see, a mainstream company actually take and put it out there for people to see, because a lot of people have never seen that, and maybe it will grow their audience and grow the kind of people that they have interested in seeing more of that. But as a long-term fan of the sport in general, it's something that I don't really want to see too often.
Completely fair, my friend. Anyone want to pick her up from there?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Like I enjoyed the match. Like I initially wasn't a big Nick Cage fan till I watched the documentary. Then I ordered a GCW pay-per-view, and I got into it. His whole story is highly recommend that the Vice documentary about him, because his whole story, he is definitely a human being who's not supposed to be there. And it was just a nice moment to see him on national television. Yeah, it's a niche on a niche death matches. It's going to be hard for people to watch. Personally, I'd rather, yeah,
nicheception.
Personally, I'd rather, if I had to choose, like glass used than a chair shot to the head, because a chair shot to the head, that's long lasting damage. This is stuff they can do, and it's quick they recover fairly quickly. But again, I feel like it's not for the national TV audience. I think it's pretty much one and done. I don't think he works on television as well as he works on the independent crowds. I think his perfect, it works so well on the independents. On a grand scale, it's never going to work, but on that smaller scale, it kills. And that's I think is what's best for him in the long run, is to stay in the independents.
Oh my God, you saw that reaction to his GCW heavyweight championship match with Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
Because that also, I think, it's nuts how much stuff has happened this week. Somebody else sent out a tweet today that was John Moxley is going to wrestle Tanahashi, and that's the 7th biggest piece of news to come out of the week. What? Because that's insane in and of itself. Juventud Guerrera is going to be on AEW Dynamite this week. What, Parrish? I know you were there, Shaw. I don't know if you were working the show or came to it with us, but when Hoovy was here a couple of years ago for the CWE, that guy can still go like an SOB. He is absolutely insanely good. I don't need to tell anybody that, but I guess he's still absolutely insanely good. And him and Jericho in the ring is going to be spectacular. So, Shaw, I'll actually turn her over to you. What are your thoughts on Gage Jericho? Maybe Hoovy getting back in the ring on national televised spectrum?
Well, I've touched on the Nick Gage thing here because I actually I checked that out for sure. I used to watch a lot of those CZW shows way back in the day with they'd be out in the farm somewhere just beating each other with glass and stuff. And I like it. I mean, I find some of it to be pretty exciting. It's not something I'd be jumping with joy to try and do myself or anything. But I did feel when I was watching AEW, I was very happy for Nick Gage, but I felt he was a little exposed. I felt like I could sort of tell he was really nervous because he was in front of a lot of people that he's probably never wrestled in front of that many people. He did a lot of he'd pick a weapon up, hit Jericho with it, put his arms up, turn his back to Jericho, walk away, and just play the crowd. He did 6 times, and it was starting to get hey man, you're wrestling this guy. Maybe keep your attention on him a little bit more. So I thought anytime he wasn't using glass or doing a hardcore thing, it was he looks like he's out of his element. I wouldn't say he looks like he sucks or anything like that. I wouldn't go that strong, but he definitely looked like he was out of his element, and he was in a little over his head.
Man,
yeah.
I can't speak to that whatsoever. You know, if you ain't anxious to get into a death match, I ain't even been anxious to get into the wrestling ring. So I'll leave the critiques to individuals like you who are a lot more qualified than me, but the nerves I certainly can speak to, like walking out there in front of thousands of people.
Like, and he's wrestling Chris Jericho. Like, the guy, like, legit, Nick Gage is this dude who had, like, a drug problem from Philadelphia, robbed a bank and stuff, and now he was in the main event on TNT against Chris Jericho in front of, like, thousands and thousands of people. Like, and yeah, he was probably feeling right at home whenever they were using the glass and chairs and stuff. But like you could definitely tell that he was like I mean, at least from my perspective, I was like, he's got to be nervous because like, yeah.
Let me tell you, Goose, as far as the in-ring stuff, there were 3 individuals. Well, I guess I don't know how many of you guys have actually stepped in the ring a couple of times. I know for sure 3 of you. So there are at least 3 of you whose opinions I will always air to as far as the in-ring stuff goes.
And I'm not trying to put myself over as any kind of an expert or anything, but like,
dude, don't worry.
That's how it looked to me, where I was like, it just looks like he's a little uncomfortable. You know,
it's like the dude says, man, that's just like your opinion, man. Parrish, Alex, any thoughts on both last week's main event, next week's upcoming, I would guess, prospective main event with Juventud Guerrera facing off with Jericho? Anything in between? What are your thoughts on Dynamite from last week?
I would actually have to disagree with Goose. I think he was playing it smart when he was playing the crowd a little bit. I think he was giving Jericho a little bit of time to breathe and to relax from whatever he may have been doing to him. You know, he did the same thing during him and Cardona. He would sit there with a pizza cutter or a piece of the light tube, and he would just drill it into his forehead. And then he'd take a second to play to the crowd. He would let Cardona take a moment to breathe, relax a little bit, and gather himself, because you're going to be in a hell of a lot of pain. So you're going to want a moment to take an refocus.
100%. I didn't have a problem with him doing that, but he did it frequently, a lot of times, to the point where I was like, why do you keep turning your back on this guy? Like, just finish him off. You know?
And psychologically, you don't want to turn your back. You want to keep, the focus on him. But at the same time, he's that guy. He's going to play to the crowd, especially if we were in that situation. I'm on AEW for the first time. I'm going to play to the crowd like, hey, here I am, cheer for me. But give my opponent a little bit of time to breathe. As far as Juventud goes, I'm a big fan. I've got a match of him and Jericho for, believe the first time on WCW queued up into my YouTube. And I'm ready to watch it and hopefully get a taste of what's going to come on this Wednesday.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Not only that both of those guys are still going, but still going to the level that it's absolutely, it's mind-boggling, as Michael Scott so famously put it. Parrish, as always, it seems like I always turn to you for the final word in these segments, but it's always because you always give us an entertaining soundbite that we can send out for promotional purposes. Makes it easy for us to put them up. Thoughts? Comments? Concerns?
That's the world got to, and I'm the level of voice for promotional thought.
Well, at least on my end, I can only speak for myself, but I've always said I have a face for radio. When we've got audio commercials,
you're the Lord Alfred of wrestling. And now for a word from our sponsors.
I think I just missed my friend. No, good old Morgan Freeman.
Any thoughts on your end? And then, of course, I know that there are a couple of comments, Jeremiah, Ed. We will get to them, but I want to hear what Parrish has to say on.
Yeah, I'll just touch upon.
In my opinion, something great, but certainly something worth discussing.
I'll touch on Gage and Jericho from a three-parter view thing just quickly. One, what they did was absolutely insane. Nobody's going to deny what they did was they kicked the living piss out of each other and gave the niche crowd who enjoys this kind of stuff their money's worth, even though it's on live free TV. Second point is what they ended up doing really was not meant for live TV, because the result of what they did now has really put TNT in a bad spot with Domino's, who no longer wants to work with TNT because they did not like this. That is a trickle-down effect that will absolutely hurt TNT, but really could cost AEW, because TNT is a huge platform for AEW that has multiple other sources, just like NBA, and I believe now they're getting the American rights to the NHL. So this is something that they just can't risk anymore. Like, you got to save this kind of spectacle for a pay-per-view. That is something that I hope they learned out of this one. From a third-parter, it was really cool to see Jericho kind of do something that he's not really involved in a lot, but it was also really cool to see something different. And I got to give props to AEW for actually thinking outside of the box and doing something different, because holy crap, do we just wish Vince McMahon would just put on a different sort of blazer, or maybe he would cough once in a while and sneeze or something and just be okay with it and say, hey, I'm going to try something new today. I'm going to not be weird or awkward. And like, maybe I'll actually have a tag team match. Ooh, for the tag titles with tag teams. I don't know. But like, I got to give props to AEW for at least going out there and doing it. I mean, that's very ballsy and very much something that we were told at a young age in professional wrestling. You got to go out there and just risk it. If you want to do something big, you have to take those leaps. So I give them all the credit in the world and all the respect in the world for doing that. It's just sometimes you got to know your time and place. Now, in regards to the Hoovy and Jericho thing, I think a lot of nostalgia is going to come in this match. I think you're going to see a lot of, people who knew Jericho from when, I'll just say, like, from when I knew Jericho in the 1990s, moving on, you're going to see that WCW Cruiserweight. And I really hope to God that he wears his Lionheart gear and he goes full thing. He wore it in the ECW One Night Stand against Lance Storm. Just give me that. Like, it would be so cool if they went full nostalgic over this. But at the same time,
the Painmaker out, why not?
I mean, like, and that's it. And then everybody, like, I don't know if you guys remember, like, that one epic entrance he had in AEW where they gave you the different eras of Jericho. Like, I just thought that was a really cool thing. And like, eventually, if you saw all those different eras of Jericho in AEW, that actually would be cool. Even if you have to maybe pay Vince a royalty or something, I think it'd be cool. But I don't know, like, it's different, and you got to really appreciate AEW for trying something different. I just hope that it's not at the expense of someone, maybe like a Pac, maybe someone just like an organic talent that they have who's like, you know what, if this sucks, why didn't you use me? Because that is a real thing in a locker room at times. So I really hope this pays off for AEW.
Now, before we wrap her up here for this segment, at the very least, I definitely laughed at this. Jeremiah hopping in the juice. Not to be confused with Finn Juice, Beetlejuice, or OJ Simpson. Bobby, it's good to see you, and thank you for tuning in. I can't wait to watch NWA Empower on August 28th. I appreciate, number one, your comment on the Maserati interview I threw up yesterday. I appreciate that, and I hope you enjoyed the first night of the Women's Championship Tournament presented by Ring of Honor. Lots of great stuff, not only going on in wrestling overall, but women's wrestling specifically. Now, this one I'm going to just ask for a one-word answer before we head to break. But there have been a lot of individuals out there speculating that the way this is being set up is maybe leading to a bit of a Jericho retirement match, or this is his retirement tour, or something along those lines. So do we all think, and Goose, I'll start with you, that this is Jericho's final run as a full-time competitor? One-word answer, starting with you, and we'll go clockwise with it.
No.
All right. Parrish.
Nada.
Alex.
Yes.
Lawrence.
I'll go yes.
Cody?
Yeah.
I'm going to go with no.
I was really hoping somebody was going to go with maybe. That would have been hilarious.
No,
Unfortunately, it would be a word.
Yeah.
Until we get the announcement that it's Jericho versus Lance Storm, I do not think he will be retiring. That I think that's going to be the last match out there. Jeremiah with I hope not. I agree with you, friend. Melinda, yes, I think that they're that's one of the coolest things about it.
Can I throw one match that I just, from a nostalgic reason, would be really awesome to see for Jericho? Chris Jericho versus Dominic Mysterio. Just think about that one. How absolutely insane would that match be just to watch from an era standpoint?
I'd rather have him wrestle Ray. Neat Mysterio. Nothing against Dominic. Reminder, friends, if you guys hop onto Love Wrestling's Twitter, you guys can gain access to the Custody of Dominic Mysterio coloring book that we sent out on Father's Day this year, brought to you by Zach Ralph. Gotta always shout that one out because it might be the funniest thing I have ever seen. Now, when we come back, we got lots to touch on. I want to chat about Punk. I want to chat about Daniel Bryan Danielson, or whatever the name might be. I want to chat about Cena versus Reigns. But first, I want to show you a highlight from a recent chat that I released with Eli Isom, one of Ring of Honor's breakout stars throughout 2021. Since March, the dude's been tearing it up. But we chatted a lot about his time with Ring of Honor prior to what I'm considering, again, his sort of breakout throughout the last year. So check out this clip. Stay tuned for a quick break. It is always appreciated when you're tuned in, and we hope you continue to stay tuned in right here on Love Wrestling Sunday Brunch on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We'll see you soon.
What do you think allowed you to sort of start to take the ball and run with it when you joined ROH and initially started wrestling for them full time? Because you look at names like Christopher Daniels and Kenny King and Shane Taylor and the individuals that you stepped in the ring with through your first couple of years, and not many people get those many great opportunities. What do you think that they saw in you, and maybe even those individual wrestlers saw in you to want to step inside the ring with Eli Isom?
So I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't know. I really don't know.
I appreciate the honesty.
When I was being put in those situations, when I look back at it, I was like, there were so many other people that could have been in that spot. But for whatever reason, the higher ups, they had confidence in me and they thought that I could, do the job. And it was really tough because it was kind of like a sink or swim. We're going to throw you out here and we're going to see what happens. So, thankfully it went better than than not. But yeah, I'm not really sure, but maybe it's because, every time I was at an ROH show, I was, I would work hard, I would keep, I would stay humble. And I wasn't, this like egomaniac running around being like, oh, I deserve this, I deserve that. No, I mean, since I'm from like Indiana, I'm kind of just like a simple, humble guy. Never really had much growing up, but now that I've been with Ring of Honor, I'm starting to, get some of the things that I never really had, and it's pretty cool.
Good dude, really, really good dude, and obviously a great professional wrestler. I feel very, very lucky that we're 8 months into this. My, how time flies when you're throwing watches. But Eli Isom's a great individual and somebody that I think you should really be keeping an eye on. See, you saw the Twitter handle there. It says I. Bad joke, Spencer. Get out of here. You suck. But as part of that conversation, he and I chatted about the return of John Cena, because I think that this is really going to be the first time that anybody's even slightly questioned, admittedly, whether or not Roman Reigns is going to lose the Universal Championship. I mean, no disrespect to individuals like Kevin Owens or Jey Uso or any of the individuals who have stepped up to challenge the head of the table, but he's just been too good. I don't have another way to put it. So Cena versus Reigns, it's happened before. It is a hell of a money match. Again, I'm very excited to be at SummerSlam to be able to see that live and in the flesh. So I want to touch on that really quickly. We've got about 15 minutes left on Sunday Brunch. And like I mentioned, I want to chat about Bryan and Punk. I'm going to move to the bottom right corner here. Alex, we haven't started with you, so we will after I begrudgingly shout out that Canadian dude. I love you, Andre. I know you love brunch, but it always hurts a little bit when you throw out there that.
And he's also a Habs fan, so this is awesome.
I'm just kidding, man. It is good to see you. Thank you for tuning in, whether you may be tuned in on Twitch as Andre is. you're on Facebook or YouTube, throw your comments in. We got 15 minutes left to chat pro wrestling with you guys this morning. After that, we're going to be live again at 1:30, or at least the Canadian Goose and Alex are. They're going to be on the latest edition of the Goose Call. Honk, honk, honk. But we'll chat about that in a minute. Alex.
Yes.
Let's chat about Cena versus Reigns. Your thoughts, your excitement level. What are you thinking?
I am excited for this match. Cena Reigns #1 back in No Mercy was an exciting match. Definitely an exciting build. I just don't know if this is going to be the one where Reigns loses. There's a lot of talk in the pipeline about The Rock's going to come back and, they're going to have a match. So I don't know if him losing the title here is going to help that scenario, or if it's going to be a bigger draw for Reigns versus Rock, cousin versus cousin for the title. But it's it's too early to tell.
Is there anybody out there who thinks that John Cena is going to win? And if so, the floor is yours right now.
All right.
Really?
No,
well, no, because I honestly just would have figured there would have been one. Everybody's that confident in Roman Reigns.
I'm on the fence about it right now. I think that there's at least a chance out there that Vince sees your
I was Cody, you're cutting out a wee bit. Sorry, friend.
And there's at least
Yeah, I can't hear anything he's saying.
I'm sorry, friend. You cut out a wee bit. Do you want to try again?
How's that? Can you hear me a bit better now?
Now we can. Give her another shot.
Okay. I was just saying that I think there's at least a small chance of it that Vince comes around on these fan reactions that John's getting, that with the pure love as opposed to the split crowd now, that if there's a couple weeks of this leading up to SummerSlam, that Vince might decide to pack the rocket on him. But there's the other half of me that thinks that just gives all the more reason to have Roman go over to increase that heel heat even more. So
yeah,
I'm a little torn on it. I was surprised at the reactions that John's getting, especially, Money in the Bank was kind of there. It made sense that everybody was just happy to see him. I thought by SmackDown, everything would start kind of leveling out and he'd be getting a little bit more of that Cena sucks, and it still wasn't there. So if this keeps going up to SummerSlam, they might decide this is the time to give him number 17.
Fair call. Lawrence, thoughts on your end?
I actually I think it's a good idea. I don't hate the idea of Cena winning the title. Because also, if they're setting up Rock Roman, I honestly don't think it needs a title. It's massive on its own. And I really don't need to see The Rock win the title for a minute, or have I think Roman's going to win that match anyway. If they do that match, it should be him going over. But yeah, I like the idea of a struggling, angry Roman Reigns, this dude who's I want to see the next evolution of this character and see what happens when he loses. When he finally maybe I'm not the best, and he has to chase Cena for the title. I think it should be a short reign for Cena. I'd like to see Roman just fully snap and beat the hell out of Cena after losing to him.
Yeah, he kind of goes nuts and loses his mind when he loses. That'd be
cool. Yeah, he gets angry at the Usos, and it'd be a perfect build to him. Just a short run with Cena. And then put the belt back on him, and he becomes a full-on killer again, leading up to the one person in his family he can't beat, which is The Rock. I think it'd be a good idea.
I love it. He could even refocus and re-strengthen. Maybe bring in a couple other new Samoan guys to back him up or something. Yeah. Make his stable even bigger. That'd be cool. I bet you there's lots of really good, talented Samoan wrestlers out there that could probably come into WWE and kick some. Yeah.
I have no idea on contractual status. This is just me shooting ideas out there. But what about Sefa Fatu or Jacob Fatu or anybody literally his family? There were rumors out there that Naomi was moved over to SmackDown. Maybe she could be the female component of that faction. There are just so many great ways that you can go with Roman Reigns, and there always have been. But I don't think anyone would debate that this is the
with
best
the uncertainty of Natalia's health right now. We could see Tamina being on her own, and this could be and she has history with the Usos debuting with them, so it very well could
It could go that way where Roman starts bringing in all these Samoan guys to be his like backup and like have this big gang of like Samoan dudes, and then that's when The Rock shows up to be like, hey, what are y'all doing? You know,
like I'm the real head
like,
of the table, or however
yeah,
they choose to build it. From
yeah,
there,
something like that. Yeah.
Hey, out of curiosity, if Natalia does need time off and Tamina has to find a partner to be the tag champions with, how apropos would it be if she picked Naomi and they just joined the bloodline right away and they instantly brought more championships to that angle? Like, I think that would be pretty cool.
So many ways you can go with it. And I think that, again, you've been able to go a lot of different ways throughout this run with the Universal Championship that will just be approaching 1 year as of SummerSlam this year. However, this is definitely the most exciting. Like, it really, really is. And by no means, again, do I mean any disrespect to the previous challengers or the previous individuals who stepped up to the big dog, but hot damn, I'm excited. Brian hopping in, great point, Parrish. Melinda hopping in, love that idea. And Jeremiah as well. I really hope not. Why do 17? The real Flair record is over 20, but I can see them putting the strap on Cena one more time. I think they're going to. I think, to be honest, it's an inevitability that John Cena at some point will beat that record. And I've got no real problem with that, to be honest. Like, yeah, I understand that Ric Flair's got multiple more championships than that record will officially indicate, but like, it's wrestling history. Let's just get real here. It ain't real history by any means. Now sorry, go ahead, Parrish.
I was just gonna say, we're just talking WWE, and in WWE they don't count NWA really. They'll just count what they own, which is WCW and WWE.
They're very selective about their choices at points. But we got about 10 minutes left in the Sunday brunch. We always want to make sure that we give you guys a good opportunity to plug what you've got coming up this week as well. So we've got a minute or less. And the question that I'm going to pose to everybody in the chat and everyone on screen: should they both have ended up signing, are you more excited for CM Punk or Bryan Danielson in AEW? Lawrence, haven't started with you on anything yet, so we're going to start with you, friend.
I'm going to go Daniel Bryan just because I'd like to see, like, I feel this is going to be his last run before he fully retires and, like, probably signs a legend contract with WWE. I'd like to see the stuff he's going to do with all the talent he hasn't got to work with in AEW that he just missed out on working in the independents.
Yeah.
I think there are a bunch of stories to be told there. You can go to Japan now and work too, which would be really cool to see. At the end of the year, like maybe fighting in January in Japan at the big show there. Like, I am very excited for those opportunities. I am getting more excited for CM Punk too. Like, I initially wasn't that excited because, like, I felt a few years ago it made a bigger impact that he like had another company to go to. But yeah, like I'm a little more on the Daniel Bryan front, just from the creative standpoint, the storytelling standpoint. There are a lot more stories there to tell.
Fair point, my friend. Alex, I'll move to you next.
If I have to choose, I'm gonna go with both. With Daniel Bryan being a great in-ring competitor.
That's not how this works.
Yeah. Bryan's a great in-ring competitor. Punk is just, there's a lot of hype around him. So either name is going to be, a big thing going into AEW.
Yeah, completely fair. Parrish, I think it's apropos I move to you after this one. Siobhan, the creative director, the marketing media individual behind everything here at Love Wrestling. CM Punk mainly just so I can see Maniac's reaction. Parrish, I'll let you answer, and then Zach will get to your comment in there. But good to see you, friend, regardless of me not answering your comment there yet.
Yeah, Siobhan, the first lady of Tag Struggle. That would actually be hilarious. Please record that if it happens. That would be terrific. It would be a little bit of all right, we'll say. But I think just for nostalgia, you'd want to hear Cult of Personality in a wrestling ring, because I don't think you'll hear Flight of the Valkyries in AEW. Like, I think WWE bought or owned the rights to using that, so I don't know.
What if they bring back the Final Countdown?
Well, I mean,
I don't think the WWE owns the right to Flight of the Valkyries at all. That's like an old, like that's
Public domain.
100% public domain thing. Yeah,
Yeah,
anyone
they
can
say
use.
they own that
Yeah,
specific version.
hey Goose,
yeah.
just so you know, Vince spent $9 million to buy the song "Bodies" by Drowning Pool. When it comes to Vince
did do
McMahon's
that,
wallet, don't throw anything out the window.
Well, that's not like a 200-year-old song, though.
He'd own water if he can. He is that much of a
Zach,
guy.
I will always err too on the creative end. It's a classical piece. They can't own it, just their electric guitar version. But either way,
Yeah, but they can use the rights to it. That's the difference.
Sorry to interrupt with the semantics there. So back to you. Sorry, Parrish. My
But, like,
apologies.
I think you're going to get more mileage out of Daniel Bryan just from a worker standpoint. You'll get more spectacles out of CM Punk. CM Punk's not going to wrestle every single night like Daniel Bryan could. So it's going to be a different thing. I personally think it's a mistake that both of them go to AEW. I think the money for CM Punk is in WWE. And I think Daniel Bryan, from a creative standpoint, is better suited in NXT.
That, my friend, makes for an intriguing conversation next week, and I wish we had time for it this week, to be honest with you. Cody, I'll move to you next on this one. Punk or Bryan? Who are you more excited to see potentially end up in AEW?
I'm gonna flip the coin on Alex there. I'm gonna say neither. I was never I was never a huge fan of either of them. The biggest fan I was of Punk was the Straight Edge Society days. He never really won me over on a lot of things in what he did there. I get that it
theoretically could reunite the Straight Edge Society in AEW right now.
I get that a lot of what he did was kind of groundbreaking. It kind of broke the mold on a lot of things with the pipe bomb and that. And, you know, in a way it was cool to see, but I wasn't for it. And the Yes movement and the Daniel Bryan movement, a lot of that, I missed a lot of that. I had taken time off from watching wrestling in kind of 2012 to 2014. So I missed the part where Bryan won everybody over. And when I came back, he was just this short little guy that had everybody won. And I'm like, who is he? Why should I care about him?
Fair point, man, because like I completely get that. If you miss something that integral, hard to, right? Shaw, moving to you on this one, my friend. You've got the final word on Punk versus Bryan. Who would you rather see in AEW?
Well, don't get me wrong. I am stoked to see both of them, but I am more stoked to see CM Punk just because I have not seen him in as frequently recently, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I do think, like Parrish said, I agree that Daniel Bryan's probably going to have like a solider like work rate style matches with people. Like I think Daniel Bryan, he's constantly been training over these last few years for professional wrestling. He's been doing his thing. So like, I think he's going to just be a little sharper than Punk is, but I think the Punk promos on AEW are going to just be incredible. Like,
oh man.
I cannot wait. I mean, I'm complete opposite of what Cody said. Like there's been times in my life where CM Punk was my favorite wrestler and times where Daniel Bryan was my favorite wrestler. And now I am very excited to see what a change of scenery, I mean, I have this perception too that WWE is kind of putting restrictions on people, and that AEW is just more like a creative, free environment. So I'm stoked to see what happens when we cut those strings, so to speak.
Completely agree, man. Before I give my thoughts, I'll give the shouts to the comments. Bobby hopping in with a good one as well. I'd like to see Buddy Murphy show up at AEW. I completely agree, and that's, again, something we can touch on next week when we chat on Parrish's point that he made there a couple of minutes ago. Here's one I really liked from Zach. Everyone says a singles match. I'd love a tag match for their debut. 10 minutes of Daniel Bryan playing Ricky Morton and finally tagging Pumpkin in Chicago. Yeah. The proverbial internet would explode with that one. I don't really have a better way to put it. Siobhan hopping in as well. If they book it right, AEW can capitalize on those fans that have lost interest in WWE in the last few years with Punk. Nostalgia can bring in some new viewers. And I agree there too, you know, to a similar, not the best comparison, but to a similar vein as the way Parrish was talking about Hoovy and Jericho coming out in the Lionheart gear and all of that. Certainly two different eras of pro wrestling, but I know there would be a lot of those again, lapsed fans, to be cliche with it, that would definitely tune in just to see Punk for the one night. Jeremiah hopping in as well with some love for the Goose. I'm studying to be a historian mainly for Old West history, but being a pro wrestling historian will be a huge part of my career path. Been watching since '84. Hope to do it justice. Work with a great group of guys on my podcast page, including the Canadian Goose. He has been a big part of my page, but also in helping me build up as a person. Big shout out, Kyle. We like to promote the most positive aspects of professional wrestling here, folks. And if you don't have some love for the Canadian Goose, then you are missing out on a major positive influence on not only the professional wrestling community online, but right here in Alberta, stepping inside the ring for a number of promotions, but primarily right now, real Canadian wrestling. So before we give you guys a preview of what you can expect through the next week here, including this afternoon's edition of the Goose Call, Kyle, let us know where people can find you, where they can watch you wrestle. And admittedly, I went over my time in promoting that. So we're all going to keep these fairly quick because I've got no time management skills whatsoever.
Well, this week is a bit of an anomaly. Friday night, I will be in Calgary wrestling at the Royal Canadian Legion downtown post number 1. Then Saturday is actually going to be a small show in Winfield. It's going to be a big show, but it's in a small town called Winfield. And then Sunday, we're going to be doing our Edmonton show this week. And these shows are going to feature Josh Alexander from Impact Wrestling, and the one in Calgary is going to have Johnny Devine on it. So there's going to be some exciting stuff. Not sure what I'll be doing, but I am planning to be in action on all 3 nights this week. So check those shows out. You can look them up at the Real Canadian Wrestling fan page on Facebook. That's probably your best bet. Personally, go to Pro Wrestling Tees, search for Canadian Goose or just Goose, and my shirts will come up. Please buy a shirt. It does help to support me. I really appreciate it, and the shirts look dope. So yeah, that's about what I'm going to plug this time. Also, stay tuned for the Goose Calls here coming up in a little while.
The champ is here, and he's got the big screen. Parrish, where can people find you, whether it's in ring or on your Twitch, YouTube?
You can find me at my house, so leave me alone. No, you can find me at Twitter at Chris Parrish, Instagram Chris.Parrish, on Twitch at the Chris Parrish, and whatever I'm on Love Wrestling on those platforms, you can find me as well. And yeah, other than that, I'm home, so back off. I'm holding this in private.
Alex, we're going to hop to you, friend. Where can people keep up to date with the latest and greatest from you, my friend?
Yes, you can find me later today at 3:30 Eastern. At the Goose Call. Next week, I won't be on for the recap, but I will be on for Blowing Off Stream, and then again for Sunday Brunch next week. But before that, you can also find me at RK Athletics, trying to get my workout on. Plug.
You may be a new contributor, but damn, you're picking that part of this up like
it's my radio history. You are. It's my radio history background.
Well, let me tell you, it works well. Cody, where can people find you in the near future, my friend, whether online or on screen?
You can find me on Twitter at Cody LaPoe, on my tag there. You'll find me on the Love Wrestling site. I'm going to start doing some writing, contributing, giving my opinions on what I'm loving during the shows of WWE, NJ, AEW, Impact, all of those on a regular basis here, and then also on whatever podcast streams here that I can get into.
Lawrence, of course, not last. I'll be last. And also, not least, where can people keep up to date with you, my friend?
It's going to be at KurtCNDG on Instagram and Twitter. I just want to quickly put over for fans that are watching in Montreal, where I am. IWS, their first show back. The tickets went on sale today. They're going quick, and the main event is with friend of the show, Speedball Mike Bailey, fighting for the IWS title. It's going to be a very, very good show. Yeah, I'm excited. I just got my tickets. It's going to be a big show, and a good guy supporting a good guy who supported the show and supported us too. Yep.
Absolutely, man. And friends, wherever you may be, whether it's Montreal, whether it's Alberta, wherever your respective independent professional wrestling scene may be, make sure you get out and support them. Obviously, we all enjoy tuning in weekly during our Monday Night Raw or AEW or Impact, as we obviously got to watch a great homecoming show last night. But wherever you might be, make sure you're supporting your local indies. Not only are you going to be supporting the future stars of tomorrow, to be cliche with it, but for the most part, you're supporting great individuals, like some of them that you saw on screen, like Lawrence mentioned, Speedball Mike Bailey, who I was lucky enough to interview a couple of months ago, or whoever you might be lucky enough to see live and in the flesh on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whenever your local indie may run. If you guys want to keep up to date with the latest and greatest from Love Wrestling, well, those social media handles are scrolling along the bottom, but it's easy. It's one-stop shopping. Wherever podcasts are played, YouTube videos are viewed, or articles are written, you can find us at Love Wrestling CA. Feel free to leave us some support, whether it's a Yelp review, whether it's a podcast review, whether it's throwing us a follow, a share, a subscription, or anything in between. It is always appreciated. There's so much professional wrestling content out there. There's so much great professional wrestling content out there, and it is always appreciated the fact that, especially for today, you took the time from 1 p.m. till 2 p.m. Eastern, or slightly after. Again, my time management skills aren't great sometimes. It's always appreciated when you guys take the time for us. Now, we gave a shout out to Impact Professional Wrestling earlier, and there ain't any of our favorite content contributors streaming right now. So we're going to head over. We're going to show some love to Impact Professional Wrestling. Like we said, if we're going to support our favorite indies, let's support our favorite promotions as well. Homecoming was great last night, and they should be rewarded with our watch hour. If you're tuned in on Facebook or YouTube, that's all for us. For Goose, for Parrish, for Alex, for Cody, for Lawrence, and of course for myself, Spencer Love. Thank you for tuning in. If you're on Twitch, we'll see you on the Impact side of things. We'll see you later, friends.